Have you ever felt it? That nagging question in the back of your mind, a quiet unease when you see a woman living completely on her own. No romantic partner, no frantic searching, just profound solitude. I, Edgar Cayce, have observed many paths through life, and I tell you, the answer to her self-sufficiency isn't found in typical notions of loneliness, a lack of prospects, or past heartbreak. The truth, you see, lies in something far more uncomfortable, far more unsettling, something that completely reshapes every single belief we've been taught about a woman's traditional role in the world. When a woman consciously chooses to embrace solitude, she isn't simply lost to the world. She is, in fact, finding herself embarking on an extraordinary journey of self-discovery that rarely comes with external applause, social media likes, or constant company. No. This profound transformation comes veiled in silence, forged through inner strength, and steeped in a kind of freedom that most of humanity still struggles to comprehend. Rest assured, she isn't lonely. She's profoundly selective. She isn't cold or unfeeling. She merely grew weary of constantly expending her precious warmth on those who never genuinely desired to feel it. There is, perhaps, nothing more deeply disquieting and even threatening to established norms than a woman who genuinely does not require a relationship to feel utterly complete. Her very existence shatters the conventional logic of control, dismantling the deeply ingrained myth of emotional dependency and bravely revealing a brutal, unspoken truth. Most individuals simply do not know what to do with a woman who needs no external saving. And for countless women themselves, it's a silent yet deafening journey to even begin recognizing their own reflection in that newfound mirror of internal power. As I, Edgar Cayce, have long spoken, everything we deny in ourselves becomes part of our shadow. Many of these seemingly solitary women are, in a profound sense, a vivid reflection of the collective unconscious. They embody what many secretly dream of becoming, yet what few possess the profound courage to actually embrace. They don't clamor for love. Instead, they quietly whisper their profound choices. They don't overtly display themselves for fleeting attention. Rather, they consciously retreat to meticulously preserve their inner selves. Their focus has shifted dramatically, less interested in charming any prince and far more attuned to cultivating their own inner peace. And that, undoubtedly, makes a great many people feel profoundly uncomfortable. Because while the conventional world constantly screams for an urgent pairing, for being with someone, these extraordinary women have unearthed the true transformative power of truly being with themselves. The woman who chooses to live without a constant partner isn't wandering aimlessly. She is operating on an entirely different level of consciousness. This is a dimension where nothing is ever begged for. Instead, everything is deliberately chosen. It's a realm where external approval is utterly unneeded. Her mere presence is a powerful, sufficient statement. Perhaps this very depth is precisely why she incites so much external criticism, so much reflexive judgment, and so many desperate attempts to label or superficially explain her existence. But what so many fail to grasp is that beneath her apparent external absence lies a profound inner presence, a presence that truly fills, that transcends superficial expectations, and that courageously challenges the very emotional status quo. She isn't just seeking any kind of love. She profoundly desires something that will not diminish her, something that allows her to fully expand. And until that authentic, expansive love manifests, she stands unwavering, completely whole, utterly complete within herself. You might not fully grasp this perspective right now. You might even perceive it as exaggeration, mere pride, or a cleverly disguised form of emotional damage. Yet, deep within your very core, there resides a quiet, insistent question, one that pulses even when you vehemently try to ignore it. What if this seemingly silent path is, in fact, the only true path that genuinely leads to the most important kind of love of all, the love that profoundly begins with yourself? The stillness that encircles a woman who consciously chooses to live alone is not an echo of emptiness. It is a sacred, inviolable sanctuary. Those who do not comprehend the immense value of this deeply personal space often resort to labeling her as cold, distant, or even arrogantly aloof. However, what very few manage to perceive is that she did not construct this profound inner fortress merely to shut out the outside world. Rather, she painstakingly built it to ensure she would never again lose her precious, authentic self. As Edgar Cayce, taught, everything we do not face in ourselves, we eventually end up projecting onto others. Perhaps this profound truth explains why so many individuals still mistakenly conflate genuine solitude with a void of absence, when in its truest form, it can become the incredibly fertile ground for the most profound self-discovery. While the majority of the world tirelessly seeks to complete themselves through external connections and relationships, this woman has resolutely turned her discerning gaze inward. And there, within the boundless expanse of her own unconscious, she courageously confronted the very ghosts she had instinctively avoided for many, many years, lingering childhood wounds, the ache of unspoken abandonments, and various attachments that, in reality, were merely masquerading as genuine love. Her profound decision to embrace solitude did not emanate from a raw, open wound, but rather from a deep scar that, against all odds, had finally and completely healed. She hasn't abandoned her belief in love. She has simply ceased accepting what others erroneously called love when it consistently made her feel smaller, diminished, or insignificant. This woman intimately understands chaos. She has loved so fiercely that she quite literally lost herself in the process. She has given far too much of her essence, and she has, tragically, pleaded for crumbs that should never have been offered in the first place. Yet, at a certain pivotal juncture, she profoundly awakened. And this profound awakening wasn't a sudden, jarring event. It was instead a gradual accumulation of disappointments that slowly, gracefully ceased to inflict pain and instead began to teach invaluable lessons. What you witness in her today is not coldness. It is a deeply profound emotional maturity. And maturity, I will tell you, can indeed be terrifying, for it demands presence, profound depth, and unvarnished truth. She desires not merely any company, she demands true reciprocity. She is no longer swayed by fleeting promises, but profoundly drawn to genuine, unwavering presence. So perhaps this is precisely why she often appears utterly unreachable to so many, because she harbors no desire to be saved. Instead, she longs, unequivocally, to be truly seen. And that, my friends, requires far more than superficial charm or sugary platitudes. It demands immense courage to delve into the very depths of her being, a place where very few dare to venture. And that is precisely where many inevitably give up, not because she is inherently difficult, but because she has become fully whole. When a woman courageously steps into her complete wholeness, she paradoxically awakens two extreme reactions in the world around her: profound admiration and deep-seated fear. Admiration radiates from those who are themselves genuinely seeking that same sense of self-completion. Fear emanates from those who continue to live in emotional halves, perpetually waiting for someone else to make them feel complete. She harbors no desire to complete anyone else. Her aspiration is to simply overflow alongside another individual who has also successfully found their own wholeness. Until such a soul connection emerges, she willingly, gracefully remains alone, not by some arbitrary whim of fate, but out of a profound and unwavering loyalty to her own true soul. This woman isn't engaged in a game of hiding. She is diligently protecting herself. There exists a vast and fundamental difference between actively isolating oneself and wisely preserving one's inner peace, yet the world frequently struggles to accept a woman who embodies this distinction. This is a world that still zealously preaches happily ever after as a state attainable only in pairs, a world that subtly distrusts those without a partner, as if their singleness were an undeniable mark of failure. As Edgar Cayce himself eloquently taught, where convention rules, there is little room for authenticity. This woman, by her very nature, does not live by the dictates of convention. She lives purely by her profound inner essence. She frequently encounters phrases like, "You're just too picky," "You really should be more open," or "Nobody is perfect." And in response, she offers a calm, steady, almost ironically knowing smile. She knows with an undeniable certainty that what many mistakenly label as picky is, in reality, simply her bare minimum. The essential, foundational respect and connection that took her decades of life experience to fully realize she inherently deserves. She is not chasing an impossible notion of perfection. Rather, she seeks someone mature enough to love without attempting to destroy, someone who has truly engaged in the arduous inner work she has already so courageously faced herself. And let's be utterly honest, such a profound connection isn't something one simply stumbles upon on every street corner. The discomfort she subtly generates isn't found in anything she overtly says. It lies powerfully in what her very being represents. She is the living, breathing embodiment of proof that true happiness is entirely attainable without ever depending on another person for validation or completion. This reality inevitably strips the masks from those who unknowingly feed on female insecurity, making some men feel deeply threatened. It can also cause women still ensnared by the perpetual need for external approval to feel subtly judged. Yet her purpose here is not to confront anyone. She simply exists authentically. And the sheer authenticity of a soul who has truly liberated herself inherently becomes a brutal mirror to those who continue to dwell in metaphorical chains. This woman moves without haste. She harbors no desperate need to rush anything or to frantically please anyone else. She profoundly respects her own inherent pace, and for this, she often ignites a quiet, subconscious fury within a society that constantly demands instant gratification and immediate results. She yearns for true depth, while the world often chases fleeting distractions. She desires authentic presence, while the world readily offers only superficial availability. Her soul yearns for profound soul-level bonds, while seemingly everyone else is relentlessly striving to simply appear interesting for the next fleeting social media post. And when she says no, understand that it is not a tactical game, it is raw, unvarnished truth. When she quietly walks away, it is not theatrical drama. It is a profound act of self-defense. When she chooses to remain peacefully at home rather than enduring a superficial outing with someone empty, it is not arrogance, it is crystal clear clarity. And that profound clarity, meticulously earned through the crucible of past pain and profound self-surrender, represents her greatest revolution. For she no longer exists to please, she exists purely to be. And that simple act of being is precisely what makes her so profoundly unsettling, even dangerous, to established societal norms. Perhaps what unsettles people most profoundly about this woman isn't her cherished solitude. It is the deep, abiding peace she has managed to cultivate within herself. Edgar Cayce wisely taught that those who look outward dream, but those who look inward awaken. And it was precisely that rigorous inward journey that she meticulously undertook. It was far from an easy path. It was a grueling process of methodically stripping away old masks, bravely confronting the haunting ghosts of emotional dependency, and painstakingly rebuilding herself piece by sacred piece. She no longer allows herself to be defined by the external gaze of others. She sees herself profoundly and unblinkingly through her own knowing eyes. And that, I tell you, changes absolutely everything. How many times have you secretly wondered if being alone truly signifies failure or profound freedom? How many times have you felt that inexplicable need to justify your existence for not having a partner perpetually by your side? This woman has traversed that exact landscape of doubt. She once, long ago, mistakenly believed there was something fundamentally flawed with her for being alone in a world that relentlessly idolizes couples, even deeply unhappy ones. But then, one transformative day, she profoundly understood. It is infinitely better to be truly alone than to become emotionally invisible within a relationship. And on that day, she forged a solemn pact with her own soul. Never again would she accept anything less than what she truly, inherently deserves. Her path, of course, is not a linear, straight line. There are inevitable days filled with doubt, moments of deep nostalgia, and long nights consumed by profound silence. Yet, hand in hand with these, there is also an ever-growing strength that fortifies itself with each conscious, deliberate decision she makes. She has deeply assimilated the truth that genuine love never confines, never consumes, and certainly never manipulates. The kind of love she now desires is a boundless love that liberates, that generously adds to her being, and that supports her dreams without ever suffocating her spirit. And until that authentic love manifests, she resolutely chooses to continue growing and evolving entirely on her own, not out of arrogance, but out of a profound sense of unwavering integrity. This woman is the living, breathing embodiment of what I, Edgar Cayce, referred to as true individuation. She has bravely shattered old patterns, valiantly faced her own shadow, fearlessly descended into the depths of her own unconscious, and emerged against all odds, more profoundly whole than she has ever been before. And now that she undeniably recognizes her own vast self, she vehemently refuses to ever again be merely half of anything. She doesn't seek someone to complete her. She desires, instead, someone to intimately share that expansive awareness with. And that, undeniably, is intimidating, for it demands a high level of emotional responsibility. Sadly, very few souls are genuinely willing to love in such a responsible, conscious way. Most, regrettably, still love out of personal lack, out of a need for possession, or out of primal fear. If she chooses to walk alone today, it is precisely because every single step she takes echoes with profound learning. Every no she articulates is a sacred act of unwavering self-respect, and every deliberate absence she imposes is a resonant reminder that love, in its purest form, should never, ever be begged for. She no longer feels the slightest need to prove anything to anyone else, and that profound certainty, birthed from the deepest core of her own soul, transforms absolutely everything within her sphere. Because a woman who has so bravely rediscovered herself becomes indeed dangerous, not because of any external weapons she wields, but because of the unparalleled clarity of her unwavering self-awareness. The woman who consciously chooses to live without a boyfriend is no longer the same woman who once desperately pleaded to be loved. Something profound inside her fractured, irrevocably broke. And it was precisely that break, that beautiful unraveling, that ultimately set her truly free. For sometimes, only amidst the ruins of collapse does the human soul genuinely find its majestic new form. As Edgar Cayce often conveyed, the tree that grows to heaven must also have roots that reach down to hell. And that profound truth is precisely what she has lived through. She courageously descended into the hell of her own life story, facing ancient ancestral fears, deeply ingrained inherited pain, and personal traumas that were not exclusively hers, but belonged to the long lineage of women who came before her. She has purposefully shattered toxic cycles. She has uttered a resounding no to relationships that relentlessly repeated the same draining, poisonous script. She has powerfully learned that it was never her sole responsibility to heal anyone, to save anyone, or to meekly accept mere crumbs out of a debilitating fear of simply being alone. And when she finally ceased accepting less, the world, in its conventional wisdom, attempted to convince her she was utterly wrong. But she stood her sacred ground, initially with profound uncertainty, then with a dawning awareness, and ultimately with an unshakable invulnerability. Because a soul who has truly traversed their own personal abyss no longer harbors any fear of absence. She learns to exquisitely nourish herself with silence, to warmly envelop herself in her own luminous presence. She isn't unreachable, She has simply learned to no longer allow herself to be unjustly invaded. There is an entire universe of difference, you see, between gently opening one's heart and carelessly allowing oneself to be brutally torn apart. She opens, yes, but only for those who approach with genuine truth in their eyes, not with rehearsed speeches or empty, meaningless promises. She has witnessed enough to effortlessly discern the vast difference between authentic presence and mere performance. Her intuition has sharpened, becoming an exquisitely precise filter. Her very energy is now a powerful beacon. She can sense from a profound distance what genuinely lacks depth, and she does not hesitate for a moment to gracefully walk away. Her transformation transcends the superficial. It is, indeed, archetypal. It is as though she has deeply tapped into an ancient wisdom, an age-old memory resounding through time, a timeless truth that women were not inherently born to serve or merely accommodate, but to freely and fully express themselves, not to be confined and molded, but to magnificently overflow with their own unique essence. And in accessing that powerful, profound memory, something truly wild and ancient has awakened within her. A wild woman, fiercely intuitive, profoundly emotionally sovereign. A woman who, though seemingly alone, is anything but lost. She is, in fact, in deep, resonant communion with something far greater, with her own intrinsic destiny, and no matter how desperately others try to diminish her with their simplistic labels, cold, difficult, distant, nothing truly adheres, nothing sticks, because she no longer exists to meekly fit in. She lives to beautifully, endlessly expand. She no longer battles for fleeting attention. Instead, she radiantly radiates a powerful, magnetic presence. She is no longer patiently waiting to be chosen. She herself does the choosing. And that powerful reversal of logic utterly confuses and disorients those who still vainly attempt to control the vast, untamed feminine. But she is no longer caught in their narrow confines. She has already boldly crossed the threshold. And on the other side, she has profoundly discovered that the real, authentic relationship with another truly begins only after you have loved yourself sufficiently enough to never, ever need anyone again. There is something inherently sacred about the deliberate way she navigates the world. She doesn't require public applause or external validation. Her profound confidence is quiet, understated, and it is precisely in that powerful silence that her true, unyielding strength genuinely resides. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, affirmed that everything we face within eventually becomes our destiny. And perhaps that is precisely why this remarkable woman, in consistently choosing herself again and again, has become the self-authored creator of a destiny that few can truly comprehend, but countless others secretly envy. She no longer strives to fill empty voids with fleeting promises or attempts to desperately convince anyone that she is worthy of love. She no longer begs for a small sliver of space in anyone's life, for she has profoundly learned that true presence should never, ever be begged for. It should always be freely invited. And when that genuine invitation fails to materialize from a place of authenticity, she simply, gracefully declines. She does not react with anger or bitter resentment. She steps away with the profound dignity of someone who has lost herself far too many times to allow the same deep wound to reopen. What very few truly understand is that this woman still profoundly longs for love. She still ardently desires to be cherished, to be gently touched, to be undeniably chosen. But her deepest yearning is to experience all of this without ever sacrificing a single precious piece of herself. For she has spent far too long tirelessly trying to compress her vast, beautiful soul into restrictive molds that were simply too small for the expansive being she now carries. Now, she offers her entire, magnificent self only where there is ample room to exist as a completely whole being. And that, my friends, demands a level of profound maturity that extends far beyond conventional romance. It demands an unwavering awareness. It necessitates having bravely faced one's own shadows and still consciously choosing to love despite them. She isn't searching for superficial fairy tales. She is seeking a profound soul alliance, a deep connection where there is no imbalance of domination or subservience, where both individuals can gracefully grow side by side without ever having to dim their own vibrant colors, silence their authentic pain, or shrink their magnificent dreams. And if that aspiration seems too much for some, then so be it, for she would far rather patiently wait than merely survive on the meager emotional crumbs offered by others. And to many, that uncompromising stance might sound like sheer arrogance, but in its purest, most undefiled form, it is simply profound self-love. We are, undeniably, witnessing the emergence of a new archetype of woman. A woman who has deliberately walked away from the superficial and bravely plunged into her own unfathomable depths. A woman who grew weary of being merely desired and resolutely chose instead to be genuinely respected. A woman who opted to be alone, not because she surrendered to despair about love, but because she finally began to understand that true, authentic love never ever demands self-denial. And when a woman finally grasps that profound truth, her entire world begins to irrevocably change. She no longer needs to raise her voice to be powerfully heard. Her very presence speaks volumes before a single word is uttered. Wherever she moves, the energy of the space subtly yet unmistakably shifts, like something intrinsic in the room quietly realigns itself. This isn't mere mysticism. This is pure, undeniable energy. The profound gravitas of someone who has unflinchingly faced the most brutal inner wars and consciously chosen to return to a state of peace. Not because she has conquered every single one of her fears, but because she has deeply learned to coexist with them without ever being truly defeated. Edgar Cayce would perhaps assert that she has found genuine wholeness, not by eradicating life's inherent opposites, but by seamlessly integrating them within herself. This woman does not, by any means, reject the concept of love itself. She has simply gained the profound wisdom not to submit to unbalanced relationships where one soul must inevitably dim its light for the other to falsely shine. She yearns to love truly, but in a love where her raw, essential self never needs to be edited or diluted. A love where she can gracefully embrace both her shadow and her light, her spontaneous laughter and her deepest tears, her tranquil silence and her wildest storms, because she has, in her wisdom, realized that those who exclusively adore only the pretty parts of her have not yet truly comprehended what love fundamentally entails. And those who relentlessly demand a constant sweetness still utterly fail to grasp the poignant beauty of bitterness, that vital, necessary component for genuine growth. She is, by her very nature, too profoundly whole to settle for mere halves, too powerfully free to willingly accept prisons cunningly disguised as loving care, too exquisitely sensitive to endure shallow, fleeting bonds, and simultaneously, she possesses an unyielding strength to perpetually choose this sacred path, even when it sometimes brings pain, even when it feels isolating, even when it is tragically misunderstood. This, I tell you, is the arduous yet magnificent journey of an awakened soul, graciously relinquishing instant gratification and validation in exchange for a deeper, more enduring truth. Deep within its societal construct, the world truly fears women like her, women who possess no inherent need for external validation, women who absolutely refuse to bow to pressure, women who unequivocally reject being molded into prescribed roles. This fear arises because these women audaciously challenge invisible structures, deeply question ancient ingrained patterns, and unequivocally break the unspoken emotional contracts that once dictated a woman's worth was solely derived from her partnership status. And when she shatters these confining contracts, when she boldly rewrites her very own narrative, she inevitably inspires countless others. And that, for the established system, is dangerously revolutionary. So she continues her journey, sometimes with unshed tears in her eyes, sometimes with her chest held high, but always with her feet firmly planted on the ground of her own truth. Because now she knows with unwavering certainty that she is never truly alone. She is deeply, wholly with herself. And after everything she has lived and endured, That, for her, is more than sufficient. The profound love that will inevitably follow this inner journey will not arrive as a salvation. It will burst forth as a triumphant celebration. It will not come to fill a void within her. It will come to meet her overflow. When a woman boldly chooses to walk alone, the world frequently rushes in to frantically convince her that she is making a profound mistake. Yet, deep within her very core, she feels a harmonious alignment occurring, an undeniable resonance. This feeling isn't born of pride or mere rebellion. It is a rare and precious kind of wisdom, a wisdom that can only truly emerge in profound silence. It is the very wisdom Edgar Cayce, referred to as individuation, the arduous, lifelong process of becoming utterly, authentically who you are, without masks, without compromise, without concession. And when that sacred unfolding takes place, nothing external to her possesses more power than the irrefutable truth that profoundly pulses within her own chest. That truth does not require a loud declaration. It subtly reveals itself in the way she quietly closes a door without any lingering resentment, in how she gently withdraws from environments that no longer genuinely nourish her soul, in the peaceful, knowing smile she wears, even when no one else stands by her side. For she has discovered that being truly alone is not a punishment. It is a solemn vow of unwavering loyalty to her own precious soul. And the soul of an awakened woman does not submit, does not dim its light, does not beg. It simply, profoundly is. And that, I assure you, is more than enough. The world will undoubtedly continue its relentless efforts to tell her that she is inherently missing something essential. It will persistently offer distractions, plastic princes, shallow loves crafted merely for display. But she has already seen behind the elaborate curtain of illusion. She has already profoundly understood. The journey is not about perpetually searching to find someone. It is unequivocally about ensuring you never, ever lose yourself again. And when that liberating realization blooms within her, absolutely everything shifts. Desire subtly transforms into precise discernment. A sense of previous lack transmutes into empowered choice. Patient waiting becomes a purposeful path. And what once caused profound hurt now elegantly teaches. What once bound her spirit now magnificently sets her free. Can you feel it? Deep inside you, that quiet stirring, that undeniable spark. Perhaps it's a long-forgotten memory, an old wound that now holds a different meaning, a poignant nostalgia that never quite made sense before. Perhaps it's the vivid image of a woman you once knew, or, profoundly, the very woman you are in the process of becoming. In either case, something deep within your being is gently, yet persistently, asking to be seen more clearly, something that no longer fits within antiquated molds, something that, if you truly allow it, could utterly transform how you relate to love, to others, and, most crucially, to your very own self. That woman who chooses to live alone is far more than just someone who simply doesn't conform. She is a vibrant, living symbol of pure emotional freedom. She is a potent reminder that it is profoundly possible to meticulously rebuild oneself without unnecessary hurry, without paralyzing fear, and without ever needing to prove a single thing to anyone. She does not walk ahead of anyone, but neither does she passively follow. She diligently carves her very own path, unique, inviolable, and utterly authentic. And along that transformative journey, she thoughtfully lights small, guiding fires for other awakening souls. If something within your own being was profoundly touched by this tale, perhaps it is because deep down, you too are preparing for a new kind of love. A love that beautifully begins with a profound reconciliation with yourself. A love that lovingly feeds on silence, on true presence, and on unvarnished truth. A love that can never be negotiated, begged for, or disguised as anything less than what it truly is. And if that magnificent love has not yet arrived in your life, perhaps it is precisely because you first needed to embody the woman who now steadfastly refuses to accept anything less than she wholeheartedly deserves. If this message has resonated with you, finding you at just the right poignant moment, or has reawakened a dormant spark you may have forgotten was living vibrantly inside you, then I invite you, not out of impulse, but out of a profound sense of choice, to share this video. Share it with other women who desperately need to remember their own profound strength. Like, comment, and subscribe. For when something deeply touches the human soul, the least we can do is lovingly allow it to continue resonating within us and, through us, out into the world.